I went to Blender Conference. I went down to Austin, I took the flight, I got to meet up with over 200 Blender-interested artists and professionals. Now, originally I meant to vlog everything, and unfortunately I kind of forgot to do that. I mainly just took pictures of screens and food. So instead I'm kind of pivoting to a different way of going about this. This is actually inspired by a different artist. She reacted to herself giving her own talk. I decided to kind of do something like that for a Blender conference. How to give a Blender conference talk, react to myself speaking, the things I liked, things I didn't like, and then I'll share some of the tips I'd give of how to do your own presentation and maybe some of the regrets I have with my own presentation as well. This is also very applicable to making your own tutorials as well. All right, I'm ready.
But in my free time, I like to make Blender add-ons. Most of my add-ons tend to be around optimization, like for example of kind of working on coding algorithms to kind of bake.
Man, I need to do better with my breathing. I grew up learning to sing and stuff, so I am pretty aware of like how breathy you could be. But yeah, I don't know why I'm so breathy.
Or even something as seemingly simple, playing with light.
So that's the fade because the clicker literally would not respond. I think a couple of times the AV team was literally just changing the slides for us, which I appreciate. Shout out to you guys for fixing things. Jonathan Lapel, who came right before me, actually, I think had figured it out of like, oh, if I point it at the screen, it somehow works better. But then I didn't do that. So learn from the get-go of how the setup works and how the clickers and stuff work.
And so it's all about productivity and efficiency and ensuring that none of the time is ever wasted, right? Not this add-on. This is all about scaring and pranking, maybe a little bit of trolling.
That was really hard for me to do. I'm not like an outspoken person. And so to like jump in and like, I'm not used to that. So it felt a little strained when I was doing it. I'm hoping the audience at least got that. I was also going to note that this is the exact shirt and hat that I wore for my profile picture. I thought about while I was packing, I was like, oh, that would be really funny. But as per tradition, let's just delete the default cube. I didn't swap out the video? This video is on my YouTube channel. It's one of my shorts. And so this edit was to be a little shorter. It was less of the doing the art and more of just showing the haunts directly. I highly recommend making videos for your presentations. A lot of people do like demo reels and stuff, which makes sense, especially if you're doing like a business presentation. But having a video can be a lot more direct and a lot more effective sometimes than just saying things. And I knew with this case of like showing the pranks of the add-on that having a video of it happening would be far more effective than just this is how it works. And fun fact, this video initially didn't work. Checked with the AV team, thank goodness, a couple days before, and they're like, yeah, the video file's corrupted. It's not working. And so Sasha, shout out to him for letting me borrow his laptop to be able to fix the files and re-upload.
At the same time, it felt like
this was a good crowd too. Shout out to everyone there.
So that's kind of the story I want to talk about today is how this crazy add-on came to me, but also how to make your add-ons feel more extendable to Blender.
So the reasoning with this kind of setup was I knew that just doing a fun add-on, it's funny. It would be interesting to people. I think most people would still be interested in it. But I wanted to have something appeal to the more professionals in the audience. Just like, okay, this is just a weird add-on. But I wanted to be of like, professionals can learn from this. I'm a professional, right? You know, like I wanted to kind of give some authority to the presentation and not just it be a funny presentation. This was set in a bar and it's very set up like a comedy stage. It felt like being a comedian on stage.
So let's make like a flip fluid and dive in.
Such a throwaway joke. I thought it was funny, okay? That one was kind of meant to be a throwaway transition, but anyway.
All that spooky shenanigans coming in.
Already trying to click the clicker. There you go.
But who the heck would download this add-on?
I preliminarily did it early to try to
some type of
ease this.
For this. Certainly not. They're so set in their workflow. You know,
why am I so high-pitched in my voice?
Workflows and all these things. They don't want anything.
Advanced users.
Engagement for audiences. And that's kind of when I realized that my target audience would be content creators. Any content creators in here? Woo! There we go.
There was like 3.
So that's kind of the audience that I...
You don't know that. You don't know that because you weren't there. You do kind of have to have this hope, though, with your audience of like, that there's a good enough mix of the people that you're wanting to call out or things like that. Thankfully, there was at least a couple people so I could do that.
For the relaxed part, that's actually not that hard because you can just do a random delay like this pointer. And so you just have this delay of.
And something I noticed while I was doing that was with the relax, I went slower. I took a pause. That's actually something really important with your slides is give yourself enough time per slide that you can kind of have a slower talking rhythm. This was a much more excited presentation, so I had to go fast, but also I made too many slides. Again, I'll talk about some of my regrets of afterwards of things I'd change. Giving yourself time to talk slowly is a great way to bring in the audience. Wes's talk, the keynote, actually is a really good example of this.
What about Message Bus? So this is basically kind of like a YouTube subscribe button, but for properties in Blender. But the problem is it's just a localized version of a handler.
The YouTube subscribe button, I was thinking about it when I was rehearsing this. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. After I say it every time, I feel like a teacher trying to teach, the little kids of like, these old phones, this was like the iPhone, but back then. It works. It's effective. I've talked to people after, they're like, oh yeah, it makes so much sense. But it feels weird to say it like that.
The solution that I ran into was a timer. No game developers have been surprised by that. Timer event. But
I don't think there's any game developers in that room.
It doesn't give the info I need. So if you do a simple script of
why am I so out of breath? My goodness.
Hovering over. It has no idea.
Take a breath, Spencer.
Did you know that a keyboard shortcut can be moving the mouse? Not clicking the mouse, not scrolling the wheel on the mouse, just moving the mouse trigger.
Got a good reaction from that.
Right? And also 3D mice as well.
Proud of that.
And so that's what this is doing, is it's just using a timer.
I actually spent a while of looking up online of how to pronounce that. So I guess it's Endoff, I think is how you pronounce it. I had no idea. So I was like, NDOF? Endof? Like, I had no idea. I knew it was for 3D mice, but I didn't know how to pronounce it. So I decided to intentionally not say that. Just that way I wouldn't have to worry about pronouncing it. Because even if I say Endoff, I'm like, does anyone know what I'm saying just from audio alone? So I just figured I'd just avoid saying it. So
now, for scary to be scary, it has to feel consequential. But the problem is, if the add-on actually did that, none of you would download it. So
the
problem
lane.
is then I can do
the lane.
But it could be that, in the near future, that the cube may talk more back to you, kind of like that while you're working. So you could get notifications like that. And so I was trying to think of something, and I kind of came along the lines
Already clicking the clicker like for 5 seconds.
My graphics card's fine. So this is 100% procedural, scripted, non-GPU harming artifact.
This was a haunt that came as a result of preparing for the conference, because I was like, well, I need something scarier than Hi-Fi Suzanne. Like, that's not really scary, right? I won't go into the algorithm side of it. It's actually wasn't that complicated as I thought it'd be. This is just an image that's loaded on top of the screen, but it is procedurally generated.
And Blender actually can handle audio playing pretty easily, almost plug and play, actually.
There's actually a couple of people that asked me about this right afterward because they were like, I didn't know Blender had a audio library. So it's called AUD, odd. You just find the audio device. The library does a lot of this for you. So you get the device that's, playing the sound, and then you load in the audio file. You can even load in a video file, and it will extract the audio for you, and then you just have it play. So I didn't want to get too much into the technical stuff. There was some technical stuff earlier on, but I wanted to try to keep this presentation relatively accessible to a more general audience. I figured at least half of the audience had never coded an add-on before. So I wanted to make sure that this felt accessible from a non-add-on developer.
What is the scariest user interface you can think of? That's right, I heard it. Light mode. Who here uses light mode?
I knew that would get a good reaction.
Asking you to add the cube.
This is my favorite haunt.
Just every header, every menu, the toolbox, and panels into a single button to add the cube. It can be accommodated into an artist workflow.
I agree.
Even if you have no understanding of why an artist would have their workflow like that, you have to be able to understand that it's not up to you of what their workflow may be.
I will say I'm not moving very much. They did kind of thankfully tell me of like, this is your zone that you can move around in. I wish that I moved more.
Could have gone with that modal operator and just said, you don't get any autosave while you're playing this game, haha. But I decided that I wanted to start with what works, but find better solutions. Find solutions.
Stop breathing like that, Spencer.
The Blender API But you can also have automated tests. You can have the add-on test itself. You can have it test with the UI. There was a guy last year that presented about automated testing for add-ons in Blender. I think his name was Spencer. I don't know, but I would recommend it. It was a cool presentation.
When I was first thinking of that joke, I initially didn't mention my name, and I'm really glad I did. I don't think a lot of people would have caught that. So I'm really glad I put that line in just to make it extra obvious. Because, yeah, especially with jokes, you don't want to be too subtle because confusing is always going to trump funny.
It's good if it's got a strong brand identity. These are, it's usually the most marketable, most clearly identifiable add-ons, right?
Probably more profitable than mine.
If Blender fixes a bug that you happen to be relying on for your workaround, that means you have a risk of higher maintenance.
I did get nervous as I got closer to the conference of that. On the schedule, one of the owners of Retoppleflow has its own workflow, has its own shortcuts. They define their own, custom UI and stuff. And the name of their talk was Hacking Retoppleflow or something like that. Because I'd already uploaded these slides, so I didn't want to change it. And I was like, oh, dang it. I mean, I still stand by my take, but it was just really funny that it was just later that day, Retoppleflow was talking about hacking Blender. So it was kind of funny. It's not saying that it's bad. It's just a lot more to maintain.
The product, free or paid,
that my goodness.
Eventually you want to make sure that overall you're just focused on the workflows, even if that workflow is just scaring you. So thank you for your time. I'll be at the help desk, which actually should be about right now. But otherwise, you can come find me, ask me questions, or go to my website. Thank you.
That was fun to kind of rewatch it. Thankfully, I didn't feel super cringe. The breathing was hard to listen to, but otherwise, it was good. The regrets. I'll start with the regrets. One of the things that I first had was having more slides than I have minutes. So again, this was a 20-minute presentation, and I think I had 31 slides. Thankfully, I went through these pretty quickly. Even then, it can feel rushed. You can kind of feel that faster pace from this presentation. I wish I had kind of simplified things and used a couple less slides so that way I could have a little more breathing room. Usually try to avoid having more slides than minutes. It's not bad to go over. You just have to know that you have to be pretty quick. Especially if you have videos, you have to plan for that. Committing better to the bits. I'm not used to comedy. I'm slowly getting better at comedy in my own videos, but committing to the bits would have been a little better. I got a lot of compliments with this presentation. There were some people that were like, I didn't know you were so funny, man. You were so natural on stage. How did you do that? The natural part I can't answer is rehearsing. So I told a couple people that I basically rehearsed for a couple weeks. Once I had uploaded my slides, which basically locked them in, I rehearsed the presentation at least once a day. It is very underrated to rehearse for tutorials and stuff. There's a book called How to Not Go Naked into Your Next Presentation, or Do Not Go Naked into Your Next Presentation. Highly recommend that. That's kind of a good, quick, small book on presenting. But yes, that was a lot of why I was so comfortable doing all this. Add a lot of images. You'll notice I added a lot of images, a lot of GIFs. It helped so much with saving time explaining things. I probably would actually do this better. This is another regret. This did not feel clear enough to me. I probably make this text bigger here, and having GIFs is great, far less big in size than videos. That was kind of fun, kind of reflecting back on my talk. And again, I loved being able to be there. And one story that I'll share really quick. One of the creators there, Kenny Phases, had the idea of doing another after-hours social called BlendShare. It was basically just, let's just meet up and share the projects we're working on or products we have or things like that. It was so great. It was being able to just connect with all these other Blender creators that were, beginners or experts, and even experts that I'd never heard of before. It was so satisfying. And we were all just praising each other, just oh yeah, that was so cool. It was just so satisfying. One of the guys that was there, he got there, he doesn't really share his stuff online very much. And he showed his animation, which is kind of this audio-based looping animation. And it was so cool. It was so intricate. And it was so satisfying just to see all these other artists and stuff just praise him, just you did that? That's so cool. It was so satisfying. One of the important things that Wes talked about in his keynote was about focusing on the craft, and that the craft is still valuable. Yes, the workflows and things around us may change, but some people can still be successful in their craft. Bill Plimpton talked about how he turned down an offer from Disney and that he kind of wanted to be able to do his own thing, and he still does drawn animations, and they look great. That craft is still valuable. It will still be valuable to you as you're learning new things. It was so reassuring, and I feel like this blend share that was afterward kind of just set that in stone for me a little bit. This is the part that matters, the sharing of the art, the craft, and the positivity and community. Conferences are important, and it takes money, it takes time, it takes effort, but it's also just as important as the people there. We need to be able to remember that community and reconnect. And that's really something I hope to see more from these conferences. So that's something I want to leave off with on a positive note about the importance of craft, whether it be with programming or art or any of the other mediums and formats as part of that. So thank you. Happy listening to the conference. What should I say? Happy coding, happy scaring, happy presenting, happy tutorial making, and happy blending.